The St. James Hotel. Located in Redwood, Minnesota, the St. James Hotel has been going since 1875. Ghost stories abound at the St. James, dating all the way back to the hotel's construction. Legend says a worker on the building fell to his death at the site. To this day, people report seeing an apparition in overalls walking the halls before vanishing into thin air. There is, of course, a lady in white, because there's always a lady in white. She could be one of the St. James's former owners, Clara Lilyblad. Her ghost is most often seen on the third floor where she lived for 40 years. Perhaps she's just continuing to look after her guests, as she did in life. A truly tragic tale from the hotel's past is that of the Sea Wing. The Wing was a paddle ship that capsized on Lake Pepin, taking 98 innocent lives. The St. James became an impromptu morgue for the victims. The spirits of the drowned are said to produce a mysterious fog that appears without obvious explanation in the hotel's basement. Redwood County Museum. Museums are filled with history, but not always in a display case. In Redwood Falls, the Redwood County Museum is a nice place with a difficult past. It was once a poor farm. Poor farms are where the destitute, disabled, and other unfortunates were sent to work and live. Many places like this were marked by terrible living conditions and desperate people. Often, that desperation led to sad ends. A number of the Redwood poor farm residents killed themselves. One man was hanged, but it certainly wasn't his choice. The man was apparently guilty of some offense and basically lynched. His executioners were not very skilled, however, and the poor soul had to be hanged twice before he died. Not surprisingly, the spirits of these unfortunate folks are said to haunt the Redwood County Museum to this day. Montgomery Golf Club. A golf course is not a place you'd expect to hear a bunch of ghost stories, but there are places like the Montgomery Golf Club that have their share. A strange figure is sometimes seen in the club's bar or staring in the windows. When the living golfers take a closer look, the figure is suddenly gone. It's believed the figure is the ghost of one of the club's former owners, perhaps unwilling to leave his slice of paradise. Another legend says that the first hole of the Montgomery Golf Club hides a long-forgotten grave. A farmer is said to have been buried on his farm, but that farmland was eventually turned into the golf course. The farmer's grave was missed during the course's construction, and so the farmer remains interred somewhere on the first hole. So if you're teeing off and see a strange man staring at you in a hat and overalls, it's probably just the apparition of a long-dead farmer. MilfordMine Memorial Park. Even today, mining is a dangerous job. Go back in history and the vocation goes from dangerous to downright terrifying. A mining accident would be a horrific way to go, taken by a cave-in or gas explosion in the pitch darkness. In 1924, the worst mining disaster in Minnesota's history happened at the Milford mine. On February 5th, the mine violently filled with water from the nearby Foley Lake. The 200-foot deep shaft filled within 15 feet of the top. 48 miners are working at the time. Only 7 made it out alive. Today, the Milford Mine Memorial Park sits on the site of the disaster. Not surprisingly, people say the site is haunted by the spirits of the men who perished on that terrible day in the cold, inky depths of Milford Mine. Anoka State Hospital. Asylums for the insane in the early 1900s were notoriously terrible places. The Anoka State Hospital, built in 1900, spent much of its life as just such an asylum. Stories of abuse and neglect abound, with many patients not surviving their stay. Suicide was one way in which Anoka's residents sought to escape their confinement. Others tried to actually escape through a series of underground tunnels. Not all of them made it out. Today, those who visit Anoka report footsteps and whispers coming from empty rooms and cold spots on hot days. Perhaps, for some, there was no escape from Anoka State Hospital. even in death.